Next, we'll move to item 10, Christchurch City Holdings Q3 Performance Report. And Leah Scales, CFO of CCHL. Good to have you with us. Welcome to the table. And Linda, obviously, from our own staff as well. Leah, were there any comments you wanted to make on this report before we move to any questions?
The only thing, obviously, which is the obvious thing, is the before and after. This was again March end quarter. So the Ryan, and the other thing I'd like to say is this reports is the first time, because the previous one was cancelled, this is the first time you would have seen these dashboard reports that we are now doing in public in regards to the Local Government Act reporting. So it is a snapshot. It is specifically about the statement of intent targets and performance targets, how they are tracking against them. And the other thing about this is it's actually a tracking measure, so it's actually highlighting how they're going and how they're going to end up against their year end, which is slightly different from what we've done in the past. So that is why, bar Orion, who was already at year end, everyone else is pretty much looking in the reds for a lot of the financials, as you can well imagine.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, that certainly underlines the statement that I made at the beginning of the consideration of all of these reports. These are, a particular period of time, and there's been significant change since the end of the time period that we're looking at. And CCHL obviously is another area where that has been significant. All right, so moving to questions, I'll take Sam first, and then I've got some questions from Yanni. Sam.
Thank you, Leah. I asked sort of Paul during the lockdown as well. I just wondered if you could give us an update in terms of what we're doing to look at the companies that aren't performing that well at all, in the current environment, in terms of their cost structures and how we're looking at minimising the overheads that sit within them. So, what pressure is CCHL putting on the companies?
So, in regards to all the companies, or just the
probably the underperforming ones at the moment.
So. At the moment, in regards to COVID-19, as every business are looking at all of their costs and working through, they don't actually need too much pressure from CCHL to do that. Everybody's in a very tough position. And to be fair, we are getting really regular updates from our subs. I mean, from me, from a CFO point of view, I'm probably getting monthly forecasts for them. So but it's a moving feast. As you can appreciate, things like the airport. Depending on when we come out of lockdowns and levels and when the borders reopen, these are all moving feasts and they're all doing a really good job. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure going on everywhere, and they've been very proactive in working through it.
Thank you. Yanni, I'll take your questions next and then I'll come to Pauline. Yanni.
Thank you. Thank you for the dashboard approach. We didn't have a living wage in there or senior executive remuneration, and I just wondered if there was any measure that you had to look at what was happening across our companies that we could see progress towards the living wage, and also what was happening in terms of senior executive remuneration restraint.
Yeah, so in regards to, I think I gave some feedback to, because you raised this question yesterday, I think, through staff. So the living wage progress, we always give an update once a year, and we do that after Q4. So there will be feedback on that, as we have committed to, progress against that. In regards to executive remuneration, that is always provided by the individual companies in their annual reports.
Thank you.
So could we not get some sense of what's happening across the CCHL group in terms of total senior remuneration increases or restraint as an indicator?
That is released by the entities themselves as part of their annual report. Yanni has done for the last 3 years.
Right.
4 years.
Okay. And sorry, I haven't got the advice back on the living wage yet. But I mean, okay, we'll wait to Q4. But is there any update you can give us on the implementation of it in terms of progress?
Yeah, as I think the last report I gave, we looked up, and it was August last year. So the old entities are all working towards it. We're committed to working towards over a 3-year period, and they're making good progress. Obviously, the focus in the last 3 months, to be honest, and this is not coming from the subs, has been actually retaining staff and keeping people employed. And as we go through the forecast, that's why Q4 is the perfect time to actually review it, because they'll be able to see the impact of COVID on their businesses and actually be able to give a more up-to-date focus of how that progress is going.
Yep, thank you. And
right,
I think we need
but is it...
Yeah, Yanni, go ahead.
I mean, is it fair to say that none of the companies have implemented a living wage yet?
Yanni, all of bar 2 or 3, all of the other entities all pay over the living wage. So it's not. It was always only going to be some of the smaller companies
Right.
that were actually impacted by that.
I think we need to respect the reporting cycle and the need for reporting up from the sub-entities, and the fact that we'll be getting a full update as part of the end of Q4. To get a piecemeal update now probably isn't as helpful as to get a full update with explanation at the end of Q4.
Yeah, okay. It's just, it would be hard when we do our letter of expectation and statement of intent not to have had that information and understand what progress was made. But just moving on, the only other question I had, and again, it's probably looking more forward than back, but I'm just really trying to understand what border controls we've got in place at the port around COVID, and whether anything's been considered or looked at around the foreign crews coming into our harbour and into our communities.
Yeah, that will be an operational matter, and the port will be doing it in the guidance of the government.
If that was a concern that we had as city governors, I think it's a question we'd raise through a different channel than a discussion about the quarter 3 performance report.
Can you just advise what the best channel is? Recalling that I did raise before the cruise ship came into Akaroa, and I know that's not a CCHL thing, but it was frustrating to raise a concern and then still not have any action and have that cruise ship come on with COVID-19.
Yeah, can I get Dawn to pick that up and we'll come back with some advice on that? I mean, I appreciate that it may well be a concern, but the channel for dealing with it is different than the consideration of this particular report. But we'll pick it up.
That's fine. Cheers.
All right, thank you. Further questions? Pauline.
Yeah. Look, just quickly on page 52, under CIAL and the energy, good to see. Emissions expected to decrease by 90% from baseline with decommissioning of diesel boilers, so that's good to see. And then just above that, with waste, the feasibility analysis has been completed to look at on-site processing of organic waste, and the comment is that it's determined to be viable from a waste perspective but unviable economically. And I'm just wondering if it's possible for someone to provide a summary of that feasibility study that I could have a look at, whether it be you or our staff, because I'm quite interested in that.
I can put the request through to airport
because there's other benefits that are not all economic. So
I can pass that on to.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Melanie.
Just looking at, I think it's Orion, the health and safety, like for the last 2 quarters there's been a couple of non-injury events, and I was just wondering if it says that they're taking corrective actions, but I was just wondering if I don't know the history before that of events, non-injury events. Is it improving, is the question, I guess.
Yeah, and they work through it. I mean, we do work on those trends in those regards. A lot of those things, as you would have noted in that report, that if it's a notifiable event, it goes to WorkSafe, and WorkSafe make the decision of whether to investigate. So we take a lot of comfort in the fact that if WorkSafe go and we're not progressing in it, that they're comfortable that the measures have been taken and put in place. You also need to remember Orion also includes kinetics. So it's also got it's a contracting business, so there's more likely to be more injuries than not. But in regards to trends and what you're asking, no, it's no worse than it has been.
All right, thank you. Aaron.
Yeah, just on Enable, given that, so I keep hearing in the media that there's been dogs using the internet.
Someone likes my report.
Yeah, so there's been numerous reports or reporting about the excessive use of internet, and especially from home, and the amount people are using, yet Enable new customer growth continues to track slightly below plan. Like, everyone locked at home and having to use internet is a dream come true for an internet company. But why would that, I mean, what was their plan? Even more people locked at home? I don't get it.
Oh, look, with connections, I mean, they've always had a strong growth, but there's always the early adopters, there's always that thing, and then it's the hard ones to get. And you've also got to remember that there's competition out there, right? So you've got, you know, your other Vodafones, your
Oh,
HFs.
we don't mention the competition. We don't
No,
talk
but
about the
meaning
war.
what I'm getting at is there's also got to be a compelling reason to change. And so they've done great tracking, but it is going to get to that harder end. So they're just working through that.
And just going into the lockdown, all the schools sent notices round to check how many kids didn't have internet at home, and then the government sent a whole lot of modems to the wrong school. But that aside, was there not a big uptake then, or did Enable not get the contract? Or was this prior to?
Yeah, no, Enable. Yeah, this is 31st of March.
So this is
so just
prior
remember.
to that kicking in? That's April, was it?
Yeah, well, it would have
Right.
been in lockdown, but yes, in answer to your question, Enabled was, in the New Zealand, in Christchurch, they would have been doing it, and they work closely with a lot of those things, and also the vulnerable people as well.
Right, so their year end might actually end up green.
Yeah, but you also got to remember, so it was only those essential connections that they could do through level 4 lockdown. So
Right.
yes, if they were requested to do it for vulnerable people or the schools, yes, but all other connections, so just anybody else, like say I didn't have a fibre connection, if I wanted it, I wasn't going to get it through lockdown because they couldn't connect, because like everyone else, they were in lockdown. So
Right.
yes, the connections overall will be less in that period.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and noting there'll be a lot more information on a number of these matters of, what happened during the lockdown period and after in the Q4 report, which will be coming to us in 3 months' time. All right. So can I have a mover?
Sorry, Andrew, I just have one more question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure.
Oh yeah, I just wondered if we could just get. I'm just looking at the City Care performance report, and it's all green and really, really positive around operational. And I just wondered if we could get some comment from CCHL around City Care's performance and how they view it for the third quarter. Thanks.
Yeah, they're doing very well. But again, and they, well, up to the third quarter, they were doing very well, as this is tracking.
And any further update to come as part of the Q4 report? Yeah.
Right. And how does CCHL monitor City Care's performance?
CCHL monitors all our entities the same way, in the sense that we work very closely with, we have strategic performance reports, updates every quarter. We have their chair and CEOs coming and meeting with the CCHL board at least twice a year. The CE and CFO meet quarterly, and we're on their phone with them weekly. So we do get very, but they're all, it's not City Care specific, it's every single entity is the same.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers for that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So can I have a mover for this report? Jake, and a seconder, Sam. Any debate? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against?
Bye.
That's carried. And what I'm